Hi, and welcome to this session of the AI for Positive Impact Summit. I'm Bruce Fleck, and I'll be leading this session. I'm very excited to be sharing this concept of future proofing education by learning the 7 key competencies for success in the AI driven world. Before I jump into the content, I'd first like to thank the organizers, Kelly Tenney, a good friend that I've known for a few years now, and Jacob Miles. Thank you so much for putting this together and allowing me to present among these other honored presenters. I'm very grateful for the opportunity here. Now, before I jump into the slides, I first want us to just take a minute and think about the incredible challenge and opportunity that we have to live in these times where AI is the biggest change in technological history of the human race. More changes happening faster than ever before, with the possibilities that are just almost unimaginable. Now, AI has been around for a long time. The phrase or the term AI was coined back in 1956 by John McCarthy, and it's been around for many years in various forms. Now, what's happened recently that's made it also feel so new is that there's been, over the past decade, enormous increases in the capacity of computing and storage that have allowed us to put together these neural networks required to manage natural language processing, and a whole bunch of new natural language processing techniques like the generative pre-trained transformer, as we know as GPT. Those two things have been what's really revolutionized artificial intelligence and making it available to the everyday consumer at an affordable price. So it's widely available around the world and it's affordable for everyone. So that's what's really changed. And that's why AI feels new. But not only does it feel new, but the acceleration of change and growth and use of AI has just gone exponential from where it has over the previous decade. So let's jump into the presentation. We're going to be talking about future proofing education by learning the 7 key competencies for success in the AI driven world. And again, I'm Bruce Fleck. And I have 30 plus years of experience in business, marketing, technology, and psychology. I've helped lots and lots of coaches figure out their marketing, their messaging, and how to use tech. I'm an expert in combining AI with proven business strategies and how to apply those. And I'm passionate about helping professionals learn how to use AI for a greater impact. And so education is an important piece of that entire picture for me. Up in the top right, that's when I had a chance to travel to London and went for a run in one of their beautiful parks. Bottom left is my beautiful wife, Jody, and my granddaughter. And then in the middle bottom are my 4 adult children with their spouses. And last but not least, Finley, our little mini Australian Shepherd. Just a little bit about me. So let's talk about AI's impact on the job market, because the purpose of education is not education for itself, but to be able to use it in some form of work. So 24% of US companies have replaced workers with ChatGPT. 44% of companies using AI anticipate that they're going to be doing layoffs. 60% of jobs in advanced economies like the US and Europe have jobs that could be impacted by AI, and that could be both positively impacted and negatively impacted. Positively impacted, meaning that those jobs are enhanced, maybe they're upgraded and skilled, they're able to do them more quickly, they can spend less time doing basic tedious tasks and more time doing important work, or it could mean that jobs are replaced, lost, or reduced wages. And 80% of the US workforce will have at least 10% of their tasks impacted by AI. So almost everyone in the workforce will need to interface and be knowledgeable on how to use AI. So that's why AI education is so important. Now, here's a little bit of my journey in learning about AI. Now, I went to engineering school and business school a long time ago. And so I was fortunate to understand some of the math and the statistical principles of machine learning and artificial intelligence. What goes on in the background is not entirely foreign to me. I am by no means a coder or a data scientist or any of those AI experts, but I know enough to understand basically how things are put together underneath the hood. And if we talk about an awareness of AI and machine learning technologies, I began to learn how those were being used in the late 2000s, as I saw companies like Google and Facebook and Meta and Amazon and even IBM Watson using these machine learning and AI technologies with big data in order to do predictive models. Now, I purchased in 2022, I started with Jasper.ai, and I struggled a little bit in the beginning, just to be honest. I didn't find it super intuitive. Now, there were the templates that were easy to use, but I didn't like what I was getting out of the templates. They felt very generic or very canned. And if you're familiar from the computer world of garbage in, garbage out, I quickly found that with AI, if you put generic information in, you're going to get generic information out. And I'm just not a person who is satisfied with generic information. I found it a bit frustrating to get the kind of quality output. So I'd give it a command, I'd get some stuff back, and then I'd still have to do an awful lot of editing in order to make it useful. And at times it felt like I was spending more time editing than if I'd just written it myself. Then I joined an AI community, and that's where I met Darby Rollins and Kelly Tenney. He's a partner with Darby in this community, and that's when things really started to take off for me. Darby was Jasper's very first customer and had really developed some fairly advanced prompting techniques. And I was able to learn that and quickly grasp them because I'd had some programming experience with my engineering and computer science background. So I was able to grasp those techniques pretty quickly. And then Kelly bringing in the application to business, and I joined her Changemakers course, and that's when things really started to take off for me as I was forced to apply what I was learning with the prompting techniques to actual business applications, and then things took off from there very quickly for me. And I developed some expert prompting skills where I'm able to learn how to craft complex, effective prompts, multi-layers, chain of thought kinds of things for almost any business application I wanted to do. Now, there was still a lot of copying and pasting going on because getting information in and out of ChatGPT and other large language models is still a bit challenging. Then I started to expand my AI toolkit, and I learned not only ChatGPT, but Claude using Google's Gemini now. I learned Midjourney and DALL-E and a couple other image creation software applications, multiple presentation applications. Gamma is one of them. I'm currently using Beautiful. Typeset is another one. And almost any new tool that I look for has to have AI built into it. Otherwise, I'm not going to consider it because I know it's going to be obsolete in the very near future. And the real challenge going forward for me is to be able to connect all these things so that inputs and outputs can go streamlined from one to the next. And so my current expertise is really at a level where I can create complex prompt guides using multiple AI apps, and I can teach others how to leverage AI for greater productivity and impact because I've got both the strong business experience looking at business strategy, business processes, and the technology understanding and how to apply AI technologies to that. Now, I believe that the ultimate measure of productivity is not how many things you check off your to-do list. It is not how efficiently you manage your time. It's not even how well or how good your end of year appraisal looks like with your list of accomplishments to your boss. That doesn't matter. What matters is the impact of what you do. What is the impact for yourself? What is the impact of what you do for the people you know or are working with or the people around you? What's the impact of what you do for the people you don't even know? That third order impact. And then if we think about what the ultimate impact could be, if we think about great books, works of art, movies, documentaries, companies that people have built, things that will last for a long period of time, those are things that will have impact on the people that you will never know. So if we think about impact, that is really the ultimate measure of a human being of what we can produce. And here's the secret. AI is the game changer in being able to leverage impact. So my vision for AI in education is three areas. First, I want to be able to help people accelerate the learning of critical skills. AI forces us to go back to the basics and learn really strong fundamental skills, human skills of thinking and structured thinking, creative thinking, imagination, adaptability, all those kinds of things. And once we have those skills, then we can apply them with AI, and then we get this beautiful synergistic effect. We need to be able to leverage AI to identify and close knowledge gaps and turn theory into practical skills. Next, we need to adapt to the ever-changing environment in education because education has had a long history of not adapting and changing very quickly, and that needs to change because our world is changing so fast. We need to be able to cultivate AI-enhanced agility in curriculum development and delivery. We need to foster a growth mindset through AI-driven adaptive challenges and prepare students for future careers by forecasting skill demands using AI to help us do that. And last, we need to amplify the impact of AI education. We need to empower educators with AI tools to reach and inspire more students. We need to scale personalized learning so that through the use of AI assisted instruction. And lastly, we need to foster lifelong learning where everyone is both student and teacher. because we all need to keep learning. So here are the 7 key competencies. The first is technology adoption and AI literacy. We need to understand AI's capabilities and limitations, develop some prompting skills, critically evaluate AI inputs, consider ethical implications. Then there's the accelerated learning as the next key competency. We'll talk more about that in detail. Creativity and imagination. These 3 competencies are the ones I'm going to focus on in this presentation. There are 4 more: learning critical thinking and information literacy, the ability to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information from various sources. We need adaptive problem solving, be able to cultivate the mindset and skills to tackle complex and ever-changing problems. We can leverage AI as a tool in this process. And we must not forget the human connection and emotional intelligence, because we are not just robots, we are human beings, and the human connection is what will set us apart as being successful in the real world. Our ability to connect with humans and use these AI tools, and having the emotional intelligence to be able to do that. And lastly, something that is fairly rare, but is so important once you've grasped the concept, and that is systems thinking. Instead of just learning lots of knowledge or learning a process or a linear process, if you can learn to think in terms of systems and apply systems and frameworks to everything that you're doing, then you're able to handle much more complex processes, problems, and tackle bigger issues and solve those. So those are the 7 key competencies. I'm going to focus on the first 3 that are in blue. Now, when it comes to technology adoption and literacy, we're going to start with technology adoption. I was fortunate to study this as part of my doctorate, and technology does not come naturally to humans. So there's a whole psychological aspect of how humans adopt and accept technology. So they need to understand the usefulness of the technology, how easy it is to use. They need to understand their attitude and their self-efficacy. Now, self-efficacy is basically a concept where it is the amount of confidence I have in my ability to be successful at a given type of task. Self-efficacy of AI might be, how confident am I that I'm going to be able to use AI to be able to succeed at this task? If I'm very confident, I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to be more persistent in learning and trying new things, and until I can be successful. If I have very low competency or very low self-efficacy, then I will just try a couple things and then give up. Then there's the social influence. If your peers are doing it, that your peers are being successful in using it, then you will be more motivated to accept and adopt the technology. If your mentors or your boss is giving you encouragement or instruction, or your teacher is giving you encouragement or instruction, you're going to be more likely to continue. Lastly, the whole culture of the organization, where you work and what you do, or where you learn. The learning culture is very important in supporting the psychological aspects of accepting and adopting. And lastly, in a work environment, is the technology mandatory or voluntary to learn? If my job is dependent on me learning this technology, then I'm going to be much more motivated to learn, but I'm also going to have higher levels of anxiety that might make it more difficult for me to learn. So we need to understand all the psychological aspects of technology adoption, and all of this applies to using AI, and it's only going to be more important as we go forward and bring in new technologies. So let's talk a little bit about AI literacy. What does that mean? There's 3 aspects of that. Number 1 is the AI basics. It's understanding how AI works, what its strengths are, what its limitations, and what its risks are. Next, we need to talk about AI applications, not only software applications, but how do we actually go about the process of applying AI to the work that we do? Okay? If you don't have a structured plan on how you're approaching the work, then trying to apply AI to it is not going to be successful. So you need to understand how to apply AI tools to the work that you're trying to accomplish, and learning how to do that and implement them effectively. And then lastly, part of AI literacy is actually the human role in interacting with AI and developing the right kinds of AI mindset. There's this concept of an AI first mindset, that any task we're looking at trying to do, or any skill we're trying to learn, that we first turn to AI and think, how can we use that tool to help us? And then in working with AI, we need to also develop the mindset of always critically evaluating whatever the machine gives us, because the machine will always present things that are very confident, but it may not be the right thing. So we need to learn how to think very critically and evaluate things. And of course, we always need to make sure that AI is being used ethically. Let's go to the next competency, number 2. That's accelerated learning. Now, before we jump into AI accelerated learning, I'm going to talk about 3 pillars of accelerated learning that humans need to understand. Number 1 is reading. Now, reading is still the primary method of learning. And modern reading techniques have been available for quite some time, but they are still not commonly taught. If you think about your education, when was the last time you were taught how to read or how to improve reading? The last time I was taught reading was probably in the third grade. I didn't have any of that, any reading taught to me throughout any of my secondary education, my graduate work, or even my doctorate work. Nobody teaches you how to read. And there are fantastic techniques for learning how to read and learn better because reading is learning and learning is reading. Now, audio and video are great supplements to reading, but they're not a replacement for it. While you can learn lots of things from podcasts and YouTubes, reading is still the primary method of learning. Next, I want to talk about the idea of personal knowledge management system. If you can get more information into your mind, then how do you manage it? That becomes very challenging. So you need what's called a personal knowledge management system, or sometimes called a second brain. Now, all human memory is associative. How you create ideas and how you remember ideas is through association. So knowledge is created through reflection, connection, and then synthesis of ideas. And especially adult learning is when I learn something new as an adult, I need to associate it and connect it to other experiences I've had in the past. And when I do that, then my knowledge continues to grow and build. Now, it's hard to keep this all straight in our minds. So that's why we have these wonderful tools called computers and note taking and personal knowledge management systems to help us be able to do that. So if you've ever heard of Notion, if you've heard of Obsidian or Evernote or any of these kinds of tools, then these are knowledge management systems. They're not just note taking or note keeping systems. They're actually knowledge management if you know how to use it right, how to put this information in, how to keep it, how to process it, how to use it for your thinking and connection and synthesis of ideas. We need to understand about note taking and mind mapping. We are visual people. As human beings, we evolved by remembering the landscape in the past and the geography. That was extremely important to our survival. And we have a geographical memory association in our minds. And so when you can map content out into a visual form like a regular map, then you're able to see concepts and connections and remember things much better. Lastly, there's this concept of deep learning versus learning wide, going deep in a particular subject so you become an expert in that specific subject, but also learning wide various different topics so that you can apply what you've learned in one place over in another place, because many of those principles can apply multiple places. The more wide you learn, the more you're able to connect various methods and principles across multiple domains. Lastly, let's talk about applied neuroscience. Now, neuroscience has come so far in the past 10 to 15 years. We've learned so much about the human brain and how it operates rather than what we just thought it did. And we can very easily manage our learning states using brainwave entrainment tones, or also called binaural beats. And you can go onto YouTube and look for binaural beats and just get some music to put it on, and it'll put your brain in either an alpha state for meditative or in a beta state, a low or a high beta state, depending on what you're trying to do. And this can be really helpful to give you full concentration and maximize the full power of your brain for whatever task you're trying to do. Time blocking and frequent breaks are also important because we've realized that the brain can go for sprints when it's doing deep work, but it needs frequent breaks. So if you think about, instead of trying to run the marathon, run a mile, walk a mile, run a mile, walk a mile. All right. And that's much better for our brains, that we're actually able to go much further than if we tried to do it all at once. So if you work for a full 2 hours on something very deep, it's going to take you a lot longer to recover than if you'd worked 50 minutes, break for 10, work 50 minutes and break for 10 minutes. Then you would still have much more energy to be able to continue working beyond that. We know a lot more about meditation and mindfulness. Even a little bit of meditation and mindfulness can really help calm the monkey brain and allow us to focus and learn. And then there's this concept that we do every night called sleep. And the time just before sleep, the time during sleep, and the time right when you wake up are super important times for the brain to be able to process information. I frequently will give myself an idea or a problem or a project that I'm working on before I go to bed, and I just put it into my mind. I let that be some of the last thoughts. And then when I fall to sleep, my mind is working in the background on this problem or project. And then when I wake up in the morning, I almost always have new ideas or a fresh approach on what I want to do. Use that sleep time to accelerate your learning. Now, how can we use AI to assist with our learning and knowledge? Now, I believe there's a kind of a simple cyclical system here where we talk about collecting content. And we can use AI to brainstorm the topics we want to learn about and the principles we need to learn, and use AI tools to collect and sort those resources. We can consume them, use AI assisted reading and extraction and note taking and mind mapping and summarizing. Okay. Those are things that you can do in Notion, or there's other mind mapping tools like Miro. All these other tools are available to help you do some of that stuff while you're consuming it. Then you need to conceive the ideas. So you can use some AI for analysis. You can have AI help you with evaluation and synthesizing ideas and making connections. Next, we need to create our ideas, our knowledge, and AI can help with diagramming, production, practice, and improvement. For example, this diagram here on the left, I created in Napkin AI, and I did it in about 5 minutes. I already had the framework in my mind of collect, consume, conceive, create, and communicate. I dropped that into Napkin AI, and it produced this very nice graphic for me. I changed a couple of the icons, copied and pasted right in here, and I had that in about 5 minutes. And lastly, learning is not complete until we communicate it or share it with other people. And AI can assist it with that in posting and in teaching and polishing it, improving it, and publishing it. Now, let's move on to the third key competency we're going to talk about in this presentation, and that's creativity. Now, Albert Einstein famously said that imagination is more important than knowledge. And why do you think he said that? I believe it's because when he was coming up with the ideas of special relativity and general relativity, none of the existing knowledge of Newtonian physics was going to help him. He had to use his imagination to think outside of the box, to think of things that were beyond what most people were thinking of in order to come up with these theories, and then use his math and other knowledge skills to help prove those ideas. But it was the imagination that helped him create these concepts of special relativity and general relativity. So that's why Einstein, as brilliant as he was, believed that imagination was his most valuable skill and is probably our most valuable skill going forward. And if we think about the AI tools that we have now, they are becoming so powerful that it is really only our imagination that is limiting us on how we can use these tools to benefit ourselves and mankind. Now let's talk about how AI can enhance creativity. I see there's 4 different areas to be able to do that. Number one is in idea generation. You can use AI to brainstorm ideas. And what I like to do is have AI help me ask the right questions. If it can give me a broad list of questions and I can pick the best questions, many times having the right questions is what forms the best answers or best solutions or the best direction. Second, you can use AI to explore different perspectives. We are all stuck in our own perspective, but AI has the benefit of being trained on many perspectives. You can tell it to think like so-and-so or think like a type of person or a different role. You can actually have ChatGPT or the large language models take on multiple personas and have it argue with itself or provide different diverse opinions and share all those at once. And then you can also use the concept of inversion thinking, of thinking of the opposite of what you're looking at. Next, you can look at what are called adjacent ideas and use the compass concept. You take this current idea that you're working on and you see where does it come from, where does it lead to, what competes with it, and what is similar. And using this idea of or concept of adjacent ideas in a compass approach can help you in many ways develop lots of new knowledge or find new answers to problems. And lastly, after you've done some idea generation, explored multiple alternatives, and come up with a bunch of different ideas, then you can alter existing ideas and you can combine them and come up with best solutions and can help you with all aspects of this process. Now, I believe that the real power in AI is not in the tools itself, but in the frameworks that the humans bring and apply with it. What do I mean by that? If you have a proven framework that's maybe theoretical, but it's been tested and validated, and then you use AI to help you implement or run through that proven framework, then you're going to get much better results, right? So one of the things I do, I build a lot of web pages, landing pages, sales pages, email sequences, those kind of things. And I go into YouTube and I find who are the experts in this field who've built hundreds or thousands of these and can tell me what are the best practices and the structure and the layout. That's a framework. And then I apply that with AI prompts and I get really good outputs. Secondly, you may have processes. Almost everything you do, whether you've structured or documented that process or not, you are going through a process when you're creating something. And so if you can find a process that works really well and it's reasonably optimized, that's structured and documented, then you can put that into AI and have AI follow that structured, documented process. Now, lastly, the output that you're going to get it has to be measured against something. So you have to have benchmark criteria. to measure the performance of the process and the quality of the output. And if you don't have a framework or process or benchmark criteria, then you can use the process of reverse engineering. For example, if you want to write an article that gets published in a Harvard Business Review, look at the top 10 performing articles in the Harvard Business Review. Get those articles and break them down into their components. You can use ChatGPT to do that and break it down into its components. And then once you've got the components, see what are the benchmarks that make that each of those components good versus average. And then what is the process used to create each of those different components? And then how would you put it together so that it's a successful output? That's a process of reverse engineering. When you don't have tested frameworks, proven processes, or benchmark criteria, you take very successful pieces out there, and then you break them down, pull it back, reverse engineer it, and then build your own framework, processes, and benchmark criteria. Now, that's it for the 3 competencies. Now, let's talk about how we can embrace AI education for positive change. I believe that we can support the technology adoption. Remember, humans have the psychological aspects of adopting AI that we all must be aware of and deal with, especially as educators. So we need to address the psychological challenges of AI technology adoption. Instead of trying to teach knowledge or apps or processes, we need to focus on skill development because things are changing so rapidly. Skills are the only thing that are going to stand the test of time. And once you develop a skill, then that can be grown or adapted easily as things change. So focus on key competencies and skill development. And lastly, we need to inspire continuous learning, both as a student and then being able to share that with what we've learned with other people. The pace of AI development is only going to increase. And so we need to ourselves, and especially as educators, make sure that we are continuously learning and sharing what we learn with the people that we're teaching. And then I believe that by embracing AI as a tool to enhance and empower education, we can better prepare our students and ourselves for the challenges and opportunities of the future, while ensuring that human creativity, critical thinking, and adaptability remain at the core of the learning experience because we are humans and AI is just a tool, and we need to keep that perspective and make sure that the human is in charge and not the machine. And if we do that and we teach that and that becomes common practice, then it's all going to be better for all of us and will improve the learning experience. Now, if you like this information of what I've taught, I would love to keep in touch with you. Here's my information. I have expanded this presentation into an ebook called The 7 Key Competencies for Success in the AI-Driven World, and you can get it at my website at brucefleck.com/7-keys. Thank you very much. Again, it's been an honor to be a part of this AI for Positive Impact Summit, and thanks again to the organizers, Kelly Tenney and Jacob Miles.